Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. How are you all this morning? It's wonderful to be here with you on our recovery to remission journey. This morning we're going to talk about shame, how to identify when we've repressed shame, and then we're going to go into the three parts of shame that when repressed deeply, so right into our unconscious, what that looks like as well. So for those of you who are new, welcome. It's great to have you with us and joining in our global community. And for those of you who are joining us again, it's great to see you. Say g'day. So when we look at shame, one of the hardest challenges as adults who face adverse childhood experiences is that one of the questions I certainly had is, I've got nothing to, statement, not a question, I've got nothing to be ashamed about. I did nothing wrong. Why would I have shame? And it can be very confusing as an adult to be thinking, well, I was just a kid. How on earth are you saying that I have to deal with shame? So what I wanted to do is put some more productive language around it today in order that we can see different areas that shame appears in our life, and that way it makes it easier for us to go, oh, okay, that's a habit or a belief that I can change and I can work with and I can understand, because shame is very deep. It's not logical. Okay, there will be no logic to you. Like, we can't go down a shame journey and go looking for shame and go, oh yeah, there it is, and it's all logical, practical, and makes a lot of sense. Shame drives behaviours and beliefs in our day-to-day life, and so how we identify it is that we go, oh, I can see that happening. There's underlying shame, and what it's doing is keeping me from participating in the community around me. It's keeping me separate or wanting me to, be ashamed and, have a different thought process altogether. So let's just take a look at some of the things that we can use to identify that we have repressed shame. So we can't access ourselves. So instead of being able to stand up and quantify exactly what we want and need, these different, it's like I need a really practical name for them, but I can't come up with one just off the top of my head. But these different factors come into play. So the shame can be buried under profound feelings of inadequacy. So it's that sense of, I'll never be enough. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, I'm never going to be enough. Instead of thinking, I am enough and I've done everything I can, all right? It can be buried, ourself can be buried under feelings of worthlessness. So when worthlessness comes, we tend to step back and go, I'm not worthy of having a voice. I'm not worthy of speaking up. What I have inside of me has no worth. And that's just not the truth at all. We are very, very precious people. Morning. Self-hatred. So shame can be driving self-hatred. Instead of having kindness and compassion for ourselves in our journey, we keep beating up on ourselves all the time. So listen to your self-talk to identify that. Our self-esteem can be right at the rock bottom, and you can definitely identify when your self-esteem is at rock bottom because you don't feel that you've got a right to exist. You don't feel or believe or know or understand that your role in our day-to-day life is very, very precious. Okay? There can be irrational self-blame, and it is. A lot of this work is so deeply internal that we can't identify when we're blaming ourselves. And I just had this happen recently as well, where I realized when I took the time to sit and just breathe and understand what was happening, is that I realised that I'd spent a lot of time blaming myself for marriage breakups that weren't all my fault. And I went, oh my goodness, there is nothing rational about self-blame. Nothing. It's deep inner feelings, and we have to be willing to address those. We don't want to feel innately bad either. We need to listen to the people around us that tell us we are good, we are kind, we are caring. It helps us to recover and move to remission, to understand and know that that is who we are, despite what other people who have deeper issues have ever said to us, okay? So just think of narcissism and gaslighting and how they will tell you, or even, it's the the unsaid words, implied words that go around, that we know that they're telling us we're wrong, we're bad, we haven't got it together, we're not worth listening to, and so much more. So when you combine together all or one or several of these, they cover up our healthy sense of self. They cover up who I am and don't let us step into a position of being strong and healthy and whole and knowing where we're focused and where we're going in life. Now, because all of these are psychologically painful, we do bury them in the deep recesses of our unconscious. So it does take work to peel away the layers. It's the typical onion analogy, layer after layer after layer. And we've got to peel back those layers gently and kindly. Hi, Ali. So that we can go, oh yeah, and then we integrate the changes in our day-to-day life, all right? Just gently and slowly, because they do affect our thoughts, they do affect how we feel, and they do cover up our really deep sense of self and belonging. A lot of shame has to do with belonging, because in childhood we got the message that we had to keep it secret, keep it safe. And then because we as children don't understand that it's supposed to be just keep it secret, safe, about what the adult is doing that's mistreating us, we apply it right across our lives. And then as children, we don't step into the social aspect of life. All right, we go, okay, I have to keep it secret, keep it safe. So we don't open up as children either, okay? When all of this is hidden in the deep recesses of our unconscious, they become defense mechanisms as well that we employ not to feel the shame. And this goes even deeper, that the three main types of defense mechanisms are narcissism, blame, and contempt. Okay, so what do they look like? What does narcissism, blame, and contempt look like in day-to-day life? So narcissism is somebody who has a relentless and desperate need to prove to both themselves and everyone around them that they are superior. Oh my goodness. And don't we know it? Because they crave admiration from everyone and anything around them. And they want to aspire to make themselves the object of great envy. And they've always got to be the centre of attention. And they may be driven to attempt to achieve high social status, earn a high salary, and seek positions of power. And even in their mind, if their position of power is just over you, that is what they will do. They'll take it anyway they can get it, and undermine everything and every part of who you are. They also may try to appear to be clever or witty or more interesting than those around them. But most people see through this charade. So we've got to remember that when it develops into a deeply unconscious process, all right, that they're not even aware that they're like this in the world, all right, in the world around them. They literally can't see how selfish and self-centered they are because they don't want to touch the pain. That's how, they've buried their psychological pain. The blame part of this is because acceptance of failure would cause the individual who feels worthless and inadequate right down to their core of their being, and they need to keep those feelings repressed. They cannot tolerate criticism and will always shift the blame onto others when things go wrong. So look for individuals who are perfectionists. Now, from adverse childhood experiences, we do look to be perfect to keep us safe, all right? But these individuals where they've repressed the shame so deeply that they will never take responsibility for anything, ever. It will always be someone else's fault, and they will always try and gaslight us into believing it's our fault, because when our sense of self is buried, then we don't stand up to people like that. Instead we say, oh, are they right about me? I want to tell you, then people like this are not right about you, okay? You're a wonderful, kind, caring individual. And then the third way where shame gets buried deeply and it comes out in day-to-day life is with contempt. So these people look down on others and see them as inferior beings to be mocked or pitied. So think about the last time you heard somebody absolutely just rubbish another individual. And that's contempt and their feeling of superiority over everybody else. I'm just, there's a saying that my poop don't stink. And trust me, it does. Relish the humiliation of others and delight in their failures. And that does my head in, that people are like that. And it took me a long time to wrap my head around that you could think of somebody else that way. But there are people that do. And they also view others as beneath them. And the more effectively they keep their own deep feelings of inferiority and shame at bay, the more that they will continue down the same path. Okay? So I hope you can see that there's two different levels. It's almost like the codependent side where we're aware of it and we've got to peel back the layers and deal with the shame. And there's the narcissism side where they just don't see themselves in the light that everybody else sees them in. And it is that deeply buried, and it's buried under layers of bitterness as well. And it can take time to get to know someone and see how bitter they really are. And it is a wound deep down in their soul. Okay, I hope this information helps you today. Just choose one layer to peel back, or to sit and say, okay, what is it that I need to recognise? Oh, and I've got to tell you that one of the significant ways we can see that we've repressed shame is when we apologise all the time. Oh, let's all put our hands up. Who spent so much of their life apologising for themselves when there was no need to apologise? Okay. All right. Take one thing away. Be aware of when it moves in your day-to-day life. Sit down, let the emotions move through you, and then feel how much better you are for just letting it go. Okay, have the most awesome day or evening. I'll be back tomorrow. It's Friday. Yay! And I'll catch you then. Bye for now.